There's a reason some rooms stop you in your tracks. It's not just the furniture or paint color, it's something quieter, something you feel before ever understanding it. It's the light. The way it pools on a surface creates shadows and highlights. The way a single lamp can make a whole room feel like somewhere you never want to leave. For most of us, picking out great furniture and placing it properly comes easily enough, but what we fail to fully consider is just how much lighting affects all of our design decisions. Bad lighting, no matter how beautifully designed the room may be, is a vibe killer, so today we're going to fix that. Lighting doesn't just illuminate, it shapes the space, sets the mood, and makes everything look better. Or worse. Unfortunately, it's also the most underrated design tool. Most of us just rely on overhead lights, either bad flush mounts or overdone recessed lights. Erin and I made the mistake of installing way too many recessed lights in our living room back when we first started our renovation, because I didn't spend enough time thinking about a lighting scheme before we jumped in, a mistake I'm itching to fix. Another problem I see a lot of is not understanding color temperature. The color of the light that fills the space has a huge impact on how we feel, and mixing temperatures can create tension in an unwanted way. Now, every room in your house is going to require something different because the function of each of these spaces is different. So the first step should be to really think about what you do in a room and what kind of lighting needs are essential. Making a list laying out your priorities for each space can be really helpful to organize some of these initial thoughts. But let's dive into some specifics so we can start to better understand how to approach lighting in general. Professionals generally classify each light source into one of three categories: ambient lighting, task lighting, and accent lighting. Ambient lighting acts as a sort of base layer. It provides the overall brightness in a room and usually comes from some form of overhead lighting. So think recessed cans, flush mounts, chandeliers, or pendants. Now, ambient lighting has gone from one extreme to the next historically in homes. In the past, rooms were often equipped with one ceiling light, smack dab in the middle of the room, and that was it for overall ambient lighting. But by the 90s into the early 2000s, homes started featuring an abundance of recessed canned lights. Like with most things, the answer lies somewhere in the middle of these two extremes. You usually don't want to rely on solely one source of overhead lighting to act as your ambient light source, but you also don't want to overdo it. In most rooms, you probably don't need more than 2 to 4 overhead lights. Obviously, this is room dependent. In a dining room, one overhead chandelier or pendant might be all you need overhead, whereas a kitchen might benefit from more overhead lights because that's the space you're going to be working in and need clean and clear illumination. Another important note on ambient lighting is you usually want to avoid pouring light directly down onto the floor in an attempt to flood the space with light. It's far more aesthetically pleasing to aim lights on objects or surfaces, not spaces. This is one reason the recessed can lights are falling out of favor. If you can, opt for something that is directional so you can decide what specifically you want to illuminate and aim it in that direction. I'd advise pointing these overheads at shelving units with some of your collected objects or at wall art in a room. The light that bounces off the wall will inherently fill the space with ambient light without needing to flood it down directly. This will allow the light to bounce off of the wall before coming to you and provide a softer glow, as opposed to the more harsh, direct light that non-directional recessed lights give off. Also, I'd suggest that all of your overhead lights be on dimmers. Most of the time, with the exception of maybe a bathroom or kitchen, you're not going to need the full power of the bulb. Having a dimmer gives you the flexibility to dial in the amount of light you're getting. A traditional dimmer switch is a cheap and easy fix, or you can get fancy with it and use smart dimmers. If you want to take it to a real extreme, you can do like my husband and create automated programs that change the lighting scheme based on time of day and regular habitual activities that follow your living pattern. I made fun of him at first because it does seem a little extreme, but honestly, being able to dial in just how a space is lit with the click of a button has become one of my life's greatest luxuries. Task lighting is the functional layer, and it provides focus light for specific activities. This is probably the easiest category to understand because it's a light that serves a very specific purpose. Examples of task lighting include under-the-cabinet kitchen lights, reading lamps, desk lamps, and bedside lights. Now, while all these lights are serving predominantly a functional purpose, they still should be beautiful. With the abundance of options available, it's easy to find a light that serves its purpose, but it's also beautiful and adds to the overall aesthetic of a space and your sort of design story. One note here is to be mindful of placement with task lighting. It's usually best to have it very close to the area you need lit to avoid shadows being cast that get in the way of the task at hand. Keep it simple and elegant when possible. Accent lighting is the final tier in your lighting scheme and probably my favorite. It's the mood layer, and it's designed to highlight architecture, art, or texture in a space. Examples include picture lights, decorative sconces, and most importantly, lamps. Just like accent colors in your design color palette, these are splashes of visual interest that act as icing on the cake, adding pops of curated light that guide your eye through the room, pointing at specific objects or surfaces. You should really have fun with your accent lights. This is where you get to play a little, so experiment with different shapes and forms and add light that further your design story. In our house, we added picture lights and sconces to highlight some of our art and give some interest to different height levels in the room. Aaron and I have also created our own small collection of 3D printed lamps, so we have some of those pieces scattered throughout the house as well. When it comes to accent lights, scale really matters. A tiny lamp in a large space reads as an afterthought. In general, I'd advise going a little bigger than you think. Don't be afraid to make a statement. Accent lights are the jewelry in your lighting scheme, so don't miss the opportunity to add some more drama to your space by finding unique pieces that speak to you and stand out as beautiful pieces when they're on and off. Most importantly, you want to make sure to include all 3 types of light in a room. Lighting a space with all 3 layers is going to leave you with a full, inviting space that feels planned and nuanced. By now, most of us are probably familiar with the Kelvin scale with regards to lighting. If you've ever tried to buy a bulb, you've probably encountered the Kelvin scale. But to sum it up, the Kelvin scale measures the color temperature of light, ranging from warm to cool tones. To oversimplify, you can think of warm tones as having a yellow hue and cool tones leaning more towards blue. Warm tones are going to feel like a candlelit room, and cooler tones are going to feel more like a room lit by natural daylight. Here's a breakdown of some numbers to get more specific. The lower the number, the warmer the color of light, and the higher the number, the cooler it is. When it comes to designing a home, we're really only concerned with these 2 ranges. 2700K is as warm as I would ever go, and I would almost never go higher than 4000K in a home, unless you enjoy feeling like you live in a hospital. 2700K is considered a warm white, and it's the look of a traditional incandescent bulb. 3000K is just slightly cooler, offering a more clear hue with a bit less yellow in it. Honestly, this range is going to work for 90% of your home. I'm mostly picking between 2700 and 3000 when planning a room. So I use 2700K for sitting rooms or bedrooms where I want a really warm and cozy vibe, and 3000K in the kitchen where I need a bit clearer of a light to see what I'm doing. In the 3500 to 4000K range, we're stepping into the cooler tones of color, leaning towards natural daylight. 3500 is considered neutral white, and 4000K is cool white. Personally, I believe these shades should only be reserved for very specific practical reasons. This range starts to look a little too cold and clinical and can be a vibe killer in the house. But there are times when you need a really clean colored light source. So for example, I use a very bright high Kelvin bulb at my easel when I'm painting. This ensures I'm seeing the true to life colors of the paint I'm mixing. I know a lot of vanity lights and bathroom mirrors also have 4000K bulbs, which makes sense if you're trying to do your makeup without any daylight around. This ensures the colors you're applying are a true representation of how they're going to look when you step outside in daylight. We use 4000K lights in our garage workshop because the functionality of that space takes precedence over the vibe. Studies show that bluer hues can affect sleep patterns, and since most of us are predominantly using our lights at night, it's usually a good idea to stay away from anything too blue, unless it's absolutely necessary. Whatever color temperature is right for you, the biggest mistake I've seen is mixing different temperatures in close proximity. In general, it's best to try and keep the color temperatures used in a room the same. If there's a need to mix temperatures, say for a task light or accent piece, then try and at least keep them in the same family. So keep your warmer yellow lights separate from your blue lights. This will create a more harmonious and cohesive feel within the room. While you want to be careful when mixing color temperatures, I do encourage mixing styles of lighting. A varied lighting scheme that includes table lamps, floor lamps, overheads, and wall sconces is going to feel far more interesting than a space with only one type of light source. Also, consider height when you're planning. You want to aim to have light sources at different levels in a room to highlight your space in a more full, encompassing way. Nowadays, there's so many great lighting options at your fingertips, so have fun and experiment. Finding out what works for you is the most exciting part. And if you're a hardcore DIYer like me and Aaron, you can even start making your own lights. I had a really ugly desk light I found on Amazon years ago, and I wanted to replace it with something a little more sculptural. That led to designing and making our very first 3D printed pillar desk light. It's got a USB plug so it pops right into your desk hub and casts a nice soft glow in the evenings to help avoid eye strain while I'm at the computer. In our entryway, I really wanted a warm, decorative amber hue, but couldn't find what I had in mind, so I came up with the folio light, which is now one of my favorite lights in our house. I took the inspiration from the spines of the books on our bookshelf to create these flowing vertical lines that terminate into the cone shape. I wanted something that felt sculptural and would be beautiful both on and off. If you're in the market for a lamp, take a look at our website. Now that we've discovered the thrill of making our own lamps, I think we're gonna keep adding to the collection. Anyway, I hope this was in some way helpful and informative, or can at least act as a way to get the gears turning as you continue to make your home everything you want it to be. And if you have any other helpful lighting tips to share, leave us a comment. We can all learn from each other. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.